Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal. We are back again with Cozy. Sesko. Arsenal are pushing hard to get the Sesko deal done before the Euros. We only have, I'd say, a week before it gets focused on the Euros, so we need to get that one done. Arsenal are now looking at a player from Chelsea. What the hell is going on? Another Chelsea player linked to Arsenal. This time it has been recommended by the scouts, and also two Arsenal players have been linked with moves away today. We'll be discussing all that once again with Cozy. How are you, man?
I'm okay. I'm, a little bit frustrated. Dortmund didn't do it. Thought we could spoil the party for the first time for Real Madrid, but we didn't. And I really expected us not to win. So I'm okay. I'm just focused on this transfer window. I just want us to level up so that the next time we play, we are watching the UEFA Champions League, final. We are the guys making the live streams and the watch-alongs and the match reactions.
I hope it's us, man. I saw Real Madrid players, celebrating, and it's not really. You can tell they've won it a lot of times before. Yeah. Someone like Kroos is like, yeah, thank you. But if it was Arsenal, that pitch would have been full of tears, like the Bellingham was reacting. Yeah. But let's get to the Arsenal news, because to get to that level, we have to get some players signed. And Arsenal are pushing hard to get the Sesko deal done this month. I think by now they're about to start playing friendly matches. Do you think we are able to get it done before then? We've been very quick in terms of completing deals recently, like the Fabio Vieira one, 2 days done, Jesus one, very quick, Zinchenko one, very quick. Do you think you're going to get on this one done before the Euros?
Yeah, it's a very big possibility. I think the way we've been working with transfers these days, it's been very, very quick, very good. We have mechanisms, and I think, it's a little bit different this summer, because I don't think Arsenal have already talked to the player before. I don't think Arsenal have talked to RB Leipzig before. I think it's more of deals for the summer, and that could come from the fact that Arsenal have been in the title running, and all of us have been focused on the title running, and Arsenal we've not had enough time to do the transfers. But I think it's a deal that will happen before the Euros. Now we're going to talk about other clubs that I think could actually make it difficult, but I still think Leipzig want a decision. I still think Arsenal want a decision, and the player wants a decision as well before the Euros, because if the Euros come in, then you're not going to trigger his release clause. It's going to be focused on, playing for Slovenia. And by the time he's out of that, he's going either on the break, or, his release clause is, has expired. And we're talking about, July. So I think it will happen before the Euros. It's not a very difficult deal. Get personal terms done, get that release clause triggered, and then you have the player.
Ben Jacobs has just reported today that situation with Benjamin Sesko remains open. Variable release clause has now risen to 55 million. Speaking of the teams that Cozy has mentioned, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, and PSG are all interested. Now, personally, for me, I'm not really worried about the teams. I had your opinion on the teams wanting him. Like, let's not live in Kukuland. Those teams can definitely get him. He might decide to go to a Man United. He might decide to go to a Chelsea. But last time I remember, at the moment Man City said they wanted Rice, and Arsenal fan was like, oh no, and I was like, no, these days I feel like if at 10 they do talk to a player and they really convince them to join, I believe they're going to join Arsenal. Whether it's Man City want them, whether it's Bayern who want them, because Bayern wanted Havertz, I think Madrid wanted Havertz, Timber was wanted by a couple of other teams, but they decided to join Arsenal. So personally for me, I do know he might end up going to a Chelsea, he might end up going to a Man United. Man United maybe not, because they already have Haaland, but a PSG is a big possibility as well in terms of the money they can offer and all that personal terms. But I feel like if Arsenal really want him, I'm not worried about any other team. I feel like we're going to convince him to come to the project. And yes, in terms of the other teams, in terms of project, I think Arsenal has the best in terms of all of these guys. But in terms of money and all that, you never know what PSG can pay, you never know what Chelsea can pay, you never know what all those teams can offer.
Exactly, and that's why I'm scared of the surrounding. And we have just talked about clubs that have already confirmed their interest in Ben Sesko. But to put this into perspective, Benjamin Sesko is a low-hanging fruit that everyone would love to have. Like, there's so many clubs like Tottenham. Tottenham have not had a centre forward for a whole season, and we know
I thought about them as well. Yeah, I thought about them as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we know they can afford 56 million euros. They know million pounds. They can afford the 65 million euro clause. And with the manager there, and without a clear number 9, they could sell him the dream of becoming the next Harry Kane. And he could look into it. And it's like, at Arsenal, I'm not starting. At PSG, there is Ramos there. At Chelsea, Christopher Nkunku could start. And of course, at Man United, there's Rasmus Hojlund. I would want to keep on playing. I would want to be my own man. I don't want to be in the shadow of another player, and so and therefore Tottenham stand a chance as well. So I think there's so many clubs that are going to come in because it's a low-hanging fruit. Now, why I'm cautious about Chelsea is what they have done with Mikhailo Modric, what they have done with Noni Madueke, and then what they've done with Tosin Adarabioyo in the last 24 hours. They have the ability to trigger release clauses like they are never there, and they have a module that they use to make players agree, personal terms with them. Now, you might think about it, the project is not good, but when we look at the talent that they've recruited, even at a time when Chelsea were even in a worse position than they are right now, Enzo Fernandez, reports saying he only wanted Chelsea. That is not true, but they gave him a lot of money. Moises Caicedo snapping Liverpool. Imagine snapping Liverpool, a giant club's Liverpool, to go for Chelsea that didn't even have a clear philosophy and the manager, for the future. Mikhailo Modric, I mean, leaving Arsenal, it was never for footballing reasons. It was for financial reasons. So Chelsea, you've got to look over your shoulder when you are in the transfer market with Chelsea, because they don't care about how much they spend. They can deal with whatever financial problems they have with the Premier League in court. So Chelsea, definitely you've got to be scared of them. Now with Manchester United, I'm not really worried about them. Financially, I don't think they're better than Arsenal. I think we can match anything they can offer. And I don't think they're a club at the moment that are going to be ridiculously spending the money. I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in, they want that kind of order in the house, order across the shop. If a player is not worth 50 million, they will not pay 50 million. If a player is worth 60 million, then they will try to negotiate it down. So I think it's PSG, it's Chelsea, and it's other clubs that could actually want to take advantage of this opportunity.
Out of all those clubs, if I was to get right about any team, it would be PSG, because Mbappe is leaving, and maybe at Tottenham, as you've said. I thought about him. I was like, okay, Richarlison there, because I'm hearing that they're open to sell Richarlison. There is a gap, and then take Son back to the left side. I know they're extending Werner's stay there, so you never know what they're planning. Now, if it comes down to a battle for between us, let's say we offer him 80,000 per week, and then Chelsea offer him 100,000. Would you be willing to tussle with them? No, let's get Sesko 130,000 a week, or would you pull out of that deal?
It's a very rare opportunity on the market, like anyone knows, and everybody we've that has engaged with us in the comment box below on both channels has said Sesko is such an opportunity, guys. We need to go get him. Everyone can see it's a rare opportunity. If Arsenal don't have to overpay in terms of his wages, because offering him 200,000, that would be ridiculous. Offering him 150,000 at the moment, that would be ridiculous as well. So if it's about 120,000, I'll be willing to do it, because he's one for the future, right? And I think he wouldn't renew his contract if it wasn't on merit. We wouldn't see a new contract for Benjamin Sesko if it wasn't on merit. So I'll give him 120,000 maximum, 130 maybe, if we are pushed to the wall, because it's such a good deal and it's one that you might not get elsewhere. But if it goes to the regions of 140, 150, I think you've got to let him go, because then it would be ridiculous. It would be becoming ridiculous. And of course, you don't want to go crazy with the likes of Chelsea. They can obliterate your finances before you know it.
Personally, I think we're going to get him eventually. I'm guessing it's definitely going to be before the Euros if someone gets him, because afterwards his release clause is going to expire. And as Kosi likes to say, Euro tax. It could be Euro tax. He might, especially if he goes and scores 2 goals against England in a game, then that becomes 80 million.
The thing with the Euros is you don't have to score 4, 3. You just need to score 1 from the center. It's as simple as that. You just score 1 for the center, or you score 1 in the 90th minute to knock out an opponent, to knock out England, to knock out Spain, whoever you knock out in the 90th minute. Even if Slovenia dare go through that group, if they go through that group, everyone who wants Benjamin Sesko, before signing him, just run for your life. You're going to be paying 100 million for Sesko this summer.
Yeah, true. So a lot of outlets have reported that Split Eagle and Ben Jacobs, that a couple of teams, one team, and the release clause could be around 55 million, but a decision has to be made before the years. And they've actually also say that Arsenal want a decision before then. The player himself wants clarity before then as well, and Leipzig want clarity before then. So I think it's a deal that could be done quickly. And I'm hoping I'm going to say 8 out of 10%. I think is going to end up being an Arsenal player because everything fits the bill. The age, the style of play, all that.
Yeah, the thing with this deal that I'm really, really scared of as well is RB Leipzig's pull on this player. Now we know that he's gone through the Red Bulls Foundation, and he's deeply rooted and deeply connected when it comes to the Red Bull Foundation. They can talk him into, we can make you, the next Erling Haaland. We can make you the best striker prospect that anyone can actually, is actually going to admire. Just stay here for one more season. We make our money, and we promise you, you're gonna move. I think West Ham did it with Declan Rice. He wanted to move to Chelsea, and they had offered him a lot of money. West Ham, countered the offer, and Rice said, "No, I'm not. I'm gonna stay for one more year, and after this 1 year, you've got to promise me that you're going to let me go." And West Ham said, "We will let you go." So I think if they promise him that if another good offer comes in next summer, he will be okay to leave. He will be left to leave, right? And they give him that salary increment because we know that there's a lucrative deal on the table for him from RB Leipzig. There is a big chance that he actually stays, right? Because I think when he looks at the proposals for all clubs, he already has the guarantee. He already has the loyalty of RB Leipzig. And I think what he has done in the last 14, 13 games in the season guarantees him a lot of minutes next season. I don't think we're going to see him start the next season as the second striker. I think he's going to become a main part of that team, right? So if they promise him that, not really ahead of Openda, but I think they will coexist. Do you think Xavi Simons will stay there at RB Leipzig? I think Xavi Simons might actually move on. So
move on.
Yeah, so with Simons moving on, Arsenal have to work quickly before RB Leipzig, get into his DNA system. Because if they get into his mind, if they get into his head, promise him, a good, project next season. Right? If anyone comes in, they'll sell him to a good project and promise him that he will leave and increase his salary, because we know if 80 to 90,000, that would be good for him at the moment. Yeah. So if they promise him 90,000 and they can give him that, we know that if they give him 90,000, promise him to sell him next summer, we are going to have to really battle hard to get him.
Awesome, and that is the latest on Sesko. I'm sure there will be a lot of developments, especially like on a Monday or Tuesday like that. Usually on a weekend, things are a little bit quiet, but we know that since the US is close to its beginning, there's going to be a lot of movement in terms of that. Now, we have been focused on a lot of incomings on Osimhen and Benjamin Sesko and on Hato and all of those players. We will talk about one that is also linked to Arsenal soon, but let's talk about a player that is currently at Arsenal, that is Emil Smith-Rowe. There's a lot of talk about him. There was a lot of talk about him in January, a lot of talk about him last summer, a lot of talk about him the time he had a very good season, and Aston Villa wanted him. Now, Aston Villa are linked to him right now, and I'm also hearing that Napoli are also interested in him. Now, he's a player that the main reason Smith-Rowe has not been playing is not because he's not a good player. It's because of his injuries. There was a time he was ahead of Martinelli in the team. Martinelli was on the bench. He was the one coming on for Smith-Rowe. Smith-Rowe wasn't really playing. Smith-Rowe was always playing, and he was our best player. He had like 10 goals plus some assists in that season. We played, I think, 33 games. And on top of that, he was scoring some crucial goals. He was scoring against Chelsea. He was scoring at Old Trafford, at Stamford Bridge. He was basically our best player. That's why we created a song for Saka and Smith-Rowe, because he was part of that. We thought they were going to, be on the same trajectory in terms of becoming great Arsenal players. But obviously now, if you compare the two, even there's a time they were picked in for England, I think, together. They went and played against San Marino, and both of them scored in that match. And right now, the thought of Smith-Rowe being in the England team is far. I think there's like almost 20, 30 players ahead of him in that team. The Gordons, the Bowens, and all of those
Palmers, and
Palmers, the Grealishes of this world. There's a lot of players ahead of him in that team. Now, what is the best thing for him to do if you are Smith Rowe right now? And that tells you, listen, next season you're going to feature more. You're planning to go farther in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. You're going to be the one to debutize for Odegaard. I'm going to give you that number 10 role, or I'm going to use him more in the number 8 position, or I'm going to take you back to where you are in the 2021 season. I'm going to use on the left wing. You're going to help out Martinelli. Maybe you have a different plan for Trossard, and you're going to feature for at least, I'd say throughout the season, you're going to feature all competitions at least 22 games. Would you be willing to stay, even if half of them are from the bench and you only start 8 out of those 22 games?
Not really. When I think about Emil Smith Rowe, I think about one of the most talented players in the Arsenal squad, like just talent. Forget what they've done, forget what they have achieved, just talent. He is ahead of so many players in that squad for talent. So I think with Emil Smith Rowe, he's got to build a career, and he's a big team player, by the way. He's not what we've always said with Eddie Nketiah, that he can do well at Crystal Palace, he can do well at maybe at a club like Brentford. Emil Smith Rowe can build his career maybe at a club like Brighton. I would love to see me at a club like Brighton, organized project, and then I won't be surprised at some point in time if he's one of those players that are being wanted by a mega project like an FC Barcelona, a Bayern. He's such a talent, like real talent. So for me, I've said this and I'm said again. It is Arsenal's loss. It is not Emil Smith Rowe's loss. The only loss Emil Smith Rowe makes by leaving Arsenal is his childhood club. It is boyhood club. He loves the club. He breathes Arsenal. He sleeps Arsenal. Eats Arsenal. Everything you can think about. His socialization, education, life is built from Hill End to the Arsenal.
Yeah.
It is Arsenal's loss. If you cannot find where Emil Smith Rowe plays, if you cannot find a place for your best talents, one of your best talents, and you want to promote Ethan Nwaneri, who, by the way, in terms of comparison, Ethan Nwaneri and ESR, the thing they have in common is they are absolutely very, very talented. So if you can find some minutes for Ethan Nwaneri, it means you could find some minutes for ESR as well, right? Yeah. The thing with ESR, and I hope his advisors have seen this, the Arsenal project does not have a dedicated role and position for Emil Smith Rowe. You've just talked about where he could play, and you've said maybe deputize for Odegaard, maybe play on the left wing, maybe give him minutes here and there, maybe a left 8. He's not thriving in those positions, right?
Yeah.
Emil Smith Rowe thrived on the left-hand side, and trust me, he's not getting ahead of Leandro Trossard objectively. And by merit, he's not getting ahead of Gabriel Martinelli because he doesn't have the directness, the sharpness, and the pace that Martinelli has. And by the way, he's one of the best dribblers in the side. He can beat a man on the line, and he can create very good chances on the left hand side. But in terms of numbers, in terms of production, those two, Trossard and Martinelli, are purely unbelievable. And we talked about Gabriel Jesus the other time, and we said even Gabriel Jesus would struggle to claim that position for himself because there is a Leandro Trossard who can finish like nothing, and there is a Martinelli who has a work ethic defensively, and his sharpness and directness is crazy. So for me, Emil Smith Rowe's way at the moment is leaving Arsenal, but not leaving Arsenal because Arsenal have let him down or anything, but in order for him to find a project that suits his talents. I like what Cole Palmer did. Cole Palmer wants to be more on the ball. He wants a lot of freedom that you don't get at Man City. At Manchester City is position, pass, and position again, right? You don't have a lot of freedom. It's only Rodri that could have that kind of freedom. Maybe Kevin De Bruyne as well. It's not so many players. So he moves on to a Chelsea where he is his own king, right? And we have seen it this season. He's thrived. So I think Emil Smith Rowe will not fail as well. If he goes to a club like Aston Villa, if he goes to a club like Napoli that are going to crown him king, he's not going to fail. So for me, if he knows what's best for him, he's got to find a project that appreciates his talents and has a role that has been naturally created for him. Arsenal have naturally evolved past his, past his abilities, and what he can offer for me.
So there's a lot to talk about on Smith. I have like 2-3 different ways of looking at this. So this season he played 13 Premier League games. I actually thought it was less than that. He played 13 Premier League games, but only 2 starts. That was against Sheffield and against Luton. Now, in my opinion, I feel like it's so tough to tell whether Arteta trusts Smith Rowe or not. I'm going to also ask you that. Because during the season, you'd probably say, no, he doesn't trust Nelson, doesn't trust Smith Rowe, doesn't really bring them on, and he need a goal and all that. But after looking at the last 1 month of the season, I'm thinking, could he? Because that game against Luton, he helped us score those 2 goals. The second one that he assisted the own goal pretty much. He made a very good run on the left side and then, his old position and cutting and then crossed the ball. But the first goal was the one I was like, yeah, because he pressed what Arteta wants. He pressed for the ball and he got it back. He gave it to, I think, Odegaard and then Havertz and I think back to Odegaard and then we scored from that. And why I say that is because on the last day, because that time, Man City was still leading 2-1, I think, and we still had a chance of winning the title. We only needed 1 goal to win the game. And he actually brought in Smith Rowe. He actually brought Smith Rowe in that game. I think he came on, right? Yeah, he came on.
Yeah, he came on.
I remember he hit the post. I was trying to think whether he started.
Yeah, he hit the crossbar.
He hit the crossbar and he looked very good in that game. So again, I was thinking, yes, Arteta definitely does not trust Smith Rowe or Nelson. But again, I look at him bringing him in a title-deciding game when he had other players on the bench. I'm like, did that Luton game impress him maybe? And he's like, okay, let me give Smith Rowe this chance, maybe starting to impress him more in training, because for players like Vieira we've had, is not really impressing at training. But Smith Rowe, I've never really seen that. And I saw him pressing in both of those games, winning possession. I feel like maybe Arteta's changed his mind on him. Maybe it'd be like, listen, next season you're going to play more and stuff. So personally, do you think he trusts him or he doesn't trust him at all? Because obviously, if you look at 13 Premier League appearances, only 2 starts. Is it because he's been injured, or do you think he just doesn't trust him at all? Or do you think there's better players ahead of him, period?
Your assessment is of a fan that really wants Emile Smith Rowe to stay. Like, you've just gone and picked up some moments where Mikel Arteta has given him a chance, and you're like, look, he gave him a chance. There is still a chance.
At the end of the season. At the end of the season, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he knows his abilities as a manager, but he has had to work with his absence. It's the same thing with Arsenal working with a Thomas Partey's absence, and Jorginho comes into the side, and we've got to evolve a few things here and there. Declan Rice changing in position and Kai Havertz changing position as well. I think Mikel knows the abilities of Emile Smith Rowe and he knows what he offers, but it's been a long time without Emile Smith Rowe being really fit for him to go 20 games straight. Right now, for me, I am not going to say he 100% doesn't trust him, and I'm not going to say he 100% trusts him. His work ethic is there. We saw that against Luton, but then you've got to ask the question: after Luton, what happened? What exactly happened? Right? Mikel is so predictable. That's the problem with him. Like, he cannot lie. He lied to us that he's going to be substituting goalkeepers and having one goalkeeper play 10 games and the other playing 2. He's so predictable. Like, you can see when he's lying. So for me, with Emile Smith Rowe, the only reason Mikel has played him in a few games is to regain his trust, keep him like he did keep Edin Ketia, maybe for 1 more season, and then he'll move him on later on. I don't see him becoming part of Mikel Arteta's stellar squad. That inner circle of players: Rice, Odegaard, Saliba, Saka, Kai Havertz. I don't see it. Does every manager have favorites? Yes. But does our manager have a little bit more of favorites? Yes, he does. Right? And that's why I said anyone on the left-hand side has got big trouble, because I don't think anyone on the left-hand side is one of Mikel Arteta's staunch favorites. Like, he will play him through a patch of rough form. No. If you're not doing well, he'll kick you out and bring on Trossard. If you're Trossard and you're not doing well, Martinelli is going to take your place. But Saka will play every game. Odegaard will play every game. Saliba will play every game. And Kai Havertz will play every game. So Emile needs to understand this, that the manager knows my abilities and he appreciates my abilities, but I am not part of his inner circle, right? And if Arsenal sign a winger or sign a player like Sesko, it's actually going to get worse, because the more signings he makes, the more the more part of his personal nucleus they become. Like, look at the players he trusts more. Are they players he found at Arsenal, or players that he has brought in and he has nurtured himself, and he has suggested that we go and spend money on? It is players that he has actually suggested himself. Like, Ben White will never get out of this Arsenal lineup, even if Sami Makpo says, "Oh, there's an injury there." That he's not getting out of the lineup. It's the same with all the other players. So for me, I think he recognizes his qualities, but he's not bothered by his qualities, really. And I won't be surprised if at some point in time, if both of them and Vieira stay, if Vieira is ahead of Emil Smith Rowe.
Wow, that is very interesting. Now, in terms of a selfish take, now us as Arsenal fans and us as people who, we love Smith Rowe. I think most Arsenal fans love him. Now there's a part of the fan base that just think he's not good enough. People are like, he's not good enough anyway. Why do you guys want him to play? He's not good enough. And maybe there some reasons he hasn't been playing is because maybe the likes of Declan Rice and Odegaard are there, and you cannot really start ahead of them. Personally, I feel if he's going to play, if he has to get space, you have to convince him that, okay, we're going to give you the number 10 role. Sometimes you're going to rest Odegaard in the games that, some games you're going to rest him, you're going to get a chance, because the others, there's too many players and you're never going to get any sure spot. The only position that is open is Odegaard, who plays every single day, a backup for Odegaard.
And actually, that's the reason why he's got to leave, because with the Martin Odegaard's role, you don't have a chance. Like, you just don't stand a chance. You have a bigger chance of replacing David Raya than replacing Martin Odegaard.
But you can say someone like a Kovacic, you can play as a number 6 and number 8 as well. You can look at it and like, okay, don't have a chance against De Bruyne and no chance against Rodri, but he still gets a chance. So don't you think like you can convince him like Odegaard is not going to play all 60 games this season? You're going to get some opportunities.
The thing with Martin Odegaard, and let's start off with Mikel, by the way. The thing with Mikel is his rotation is not as stellar as that of Pep Guardiola. Like, Pep can play Kovacic in a 6 because he has rotated the team. He did play him as a 6 against Crystal Palace, and they won that game comfortably. And Kovacic scored a beautiful goal, right? With Mikel Arteta, if Odegaard is doing it right, the rest of you don't stand a chance, right? But then the thing with Odegaard is what he does is it can be done by anyone. But the way he does it, no one else can do it. That is the problem with him, right? I think he reminds me more of Xavi and Iniesta. Like, you had this Iniesta in this Arsenal, in this Barcelona setup and Spain, and you're like, you can take off Iniesta really, and get the same output. But the moment he starts delivering, you're like, okay, no one can really do that. No one is going to do that. So with Odegaard, with just a few flashbacks, FC Porto second leg, that
pass, incredible.
That pass, right?
Actually, I would say no one can do what Odegaard does. I know you've said some people, everyone can do it, some people, but the way he does it, as you've said, there's some things he does I don't think anyone can do in the press. But that pass,
I think if I put a Fabio Vieira into that Arsenal team and I put him in the number 10, he will find through balls. He will chip them over the top because he's got that talent. But the thing with Martin Odegaard is his overall game. For him to play at such a high intensity, chase players down, and when he receives the ball, still having the ability to scan around his environment and then play those balls through. There are not so many players that can actually do that. If you have a good number 10 that creates a lot, they're usually very, very lazy, right? If you have a very hardworking player, it's in the end, they don't create as much, right? You're like, oh, he's a bulldog, he's a bulldog, he's a bulldog. But Odegaard is a creative bulldog. And the way Arsenal set up, and many people think, many people would say, would choose different players that Arsenal really rely on in our style of play. It is Martin Odegaard. You take him off, this Arsenal team will struggle, will absolutely struggle. So for me, he doesn't stand a chance with the Odegaard, because Odegaard has natural abilities that he brings to the game. Like just natural abilities, things that are not coachable, things things that you don't train, or things that you don't read a book to get them, things that are just natural, right? His vision is natural, his composure is natural, his leadership is natural, and there's so many other things, right? So just the point of him being a leader, Emil Smith Rowe, that is not your position. In terms of natural talent and technical ability, he can play there, right? But how many touches does Martin Odegaard take before making a good pass, especially in the final third? Very few touches. And Emil Smith Rowe, I'm not sold onto the idea that he's a number 10. I was listening to Harry Symeou on the Chronicles of Iguna the other time, and he was saying, he's a number 10. And I was like, I'm not really sure he's a number 10. He takes too many charges, loves to dribble a lot of the time. Maybe he can play there, but I wouldn't really fancy him there. I've seen his best football on in the wide areas, like more of a Jack Grealish. I think it's been likened to more of a Jack Grealish. So I would still say either he fights for his place on the left wing, or it's the door.
It's going to be very difficult because especially if Sesko joins, that's all of a sudden like 3 players who can play there, and that becomes very hard. Now we're going to definitely discuss more on players like Smith Rowe when we do our keep or sell with Kosi, and keep or sell or loan. That's also another option that we will be talking about. Now Smith Rowe is not the only player who was linked to the move away in January, because this is not the first time he's been linked to the move away. Kivia was also linked to the move away in January, but he ended up staying. Now Kivia is now wanted by AC Milan. According to reports, Jakub Kivia is still high in AC Milan's list. Rossoneri has a high opinion on him. They want to sort out apparently their coaching position and stuff, and then go for Kivia. Now, would it be great to sell Kivia? Before I ask that question, my first question on him is, what did you rate his season out of 10 this season before we know whether we need to keep him or not? Because personally, I think he did well. He did better than what we expected in terms of even him as a left back, and chipping in with goals, chipping in with assists. And there's that period as well. That period from January to May is one of those players that no one really talks about, but he was looking really good. Those games against Newcastle and Sheffield, and those games he was looking really good. FC Porto as well. And this guy is actually doing good. He can play as a centre back, he can play as a left back. This is exactly what Atta wants, players who can play several positions. What would you have rated him out of 10 so that we know whether we should be keeping him or not, his season in general? He struggled some games. Like Fulham, you subbed off at halftime. He was poor. I think he struggled against PSV in that rubber game.
Yeah, and Bayern
as well.
Yeah, I think in some instances, Mikel Arteta didn't protect him, honestly. Yeah, like against Bayern Munich, there's no reason if you have, you have a full squad fit. There's no reason as to why you're risking.
Yeah, it should have been Tomiyasu. It definitely should have been Tomiyasu.
Yeah, you've got to protect your players. And again, that is a Mikel Arteta mistake. That is not a Jakub Kivia mistake. So his season would have been an 8 out of 10, but I would give it a 7 because he's played across different positions. He's played in a position that he's been uncomfortable and unfamiliar with, and he's given himself time to learn that position, learn the dynamics of that position. And of course, the left back at Arsenal is not just about playing left back. We know the dynamics. We know what is needed. We know the responsibilities that you take on as a left back at Arsenal. So 7 out of 10, I would actually keep him at Arsenal. Like, he's one of the players I just don't mind. I just don't mind. Am I on a rush to keep him out, to kick him out? Why? Am I on a rush to keep him? Definitely. I mean, he's a quality player. Out of the 38 games we play in a Premier League season, I would play him in 20 of them, and I would be comfortable.
It makes sense. Now, when we signed him, as I check how much he gets paid per week, there's a time he was playing as wanted him to play as an inverted fullback as well. I guess that is what I was asking from him, and he was kind of struggling sometimes. But the moment you asked him to overlap, like those games against Newcastle and Sheffield, he looked more natural and comfortable in that position. Now, personally, for him, I think he would want to stay. The first question before I go to the next question, it's a build-up. Do you think he's improved as a player since he joined us last January?
Absolutely. His first game scared me. I was like, okay,
Sporting.
Yeah. I think his first game was in the Europa League, right?
Yeah,
Sporting Lisbon. Yeah. It really scared me. I was like, this is a Runarsson signing. This is a bad signing. Like, he kind of missed that. I don't know. He missed that header. Like, a header he was supposed to win, and then it ended
yeah.
up in the back of the goal. And I was like, okay. I compared him to Inacio and Diamonde, and I was like, these Sporting guys are 100 million times better than Jakub Kivio. We are finished. But so he's improved a lot in terms of confidence, in terms of that versatility to play out out wide in the left back position. And I think when you think about players that you don't mind starting games, especially games that are not of high pressure, he's among those. He's among those players. The players that would start even until now. They've been at Arsenal for 5-6 years. Edin Nketiah, he starts in a game. You're like, why is Edin Nketiah starting? Like, really, why? If Kivio starts a left back in a game that you're not going against a Moussa Diaby or Leon Bailey or or Luis Diaz, you'll be like, okay, let him start. He's actually okay. And again, we've seen some good performances from him. Defensively, we know the quality is there. But I think the most developed part of his game has been in possession. When Arsenal are in possession, when he's on the ball, he's really, really developed a lot. And he's, progressed. So I think one of those players that have had an improvement this season is definitely him. I wouldn't even go further than that.
So you've broken it down well. So those things that Cozy has said, and the fact that he's only 24 years of age, and the fact that he only gets paid 58,000 per week, that's very, very minimal for. I don't think he is mad about being on the bench because he knows he's gotten a lot of chances to play as well. He's started something. I think in terms of mixing it, I think I'd like Arteta to do, okay, apart from Odegaard and Rice, those ones have to play. Now, in terms of Kivio, there has been mixing, sometimes starting, sometimes not starting. I'd like him to do that with several players. I don't think Kivio would be mad about his minutes this season. He's been starting, coming on. When we need to keep a clean sheet, he comes on and helps us. I think he'd be happy this season. Now, for me, it's a no-brainer. I would definitely keep him. I would 100% keep him, as I said, all of those things. But that's why I asked you that question. Has he improved since he came to us? And if he's improved, do you think it would be better to cash in on him as he has improved without having to wait until the day drops off again and then the price drops off since he's improved? Imagine if he has the Euro tax, but to our advantage, he goes and has a very good tournament with Poland and scores 2 goals and keeps 2 clean sheets and he's voted man of the match in one of the games. And all of a sudden he has a value of like 35 million, 38 million. Do you think it would be better for Arsenal as a team to move him on, or do you think just keep him either way, even if you offered a lot of money?
When I look at him, I kind of compare him to Nathan Ake at City. Of course, Nathan Ake is like a high-profile, high-quality defender. But in terms of the role they occupy, at both of them at Arsenal and City, they are very comparable. When Nathan Ake signed for City, no one said, "Oh, Nathan Ake, the next big centre back for Man City, is gonna be playing left back. He's gonna doing this and that." No, there was Stones, there was there was Diaz, there's so many good quality players there. So you thought he was coming in to sit on the bench a lot of the time, but he's just found himself as one of the most important players in that Manchester City setup. So with Jakub Kivio, if Arsenal are not desperate for money, don't sell. Don't sell. Even if we are offered 40 million, don't sell. And this is the reason. There's some players that you have that are going to be loyal and that are going to be okay with less than 1,000 minutes, per season. That is Jakub Kivio, that is Edin Nketiah, that is a couple of other players. The thing with those players is, in most cases, they're not quality. So you look at Edin Nketiah, you want to move him on because the quality is not there. With Jakub Kivio, he's just becoming better. If you give him another season at Arsenal and you give him a chance to play, I think there's so many mistakes he's done that won't happen again. Like, you cannot allow Leroy Sané to turn you at the center line and then go on to score or win a penalty. That is ridiculous. I don't think as a center back he's going to be coached, and we're going to see that mistake ever again. I think in terms of his overall play, especially in possession, I think we're going to see a much better player. So I would keep him, right? I would keep him because even his availability is not in doubt as compared to a player like Takara Tomiyasu, right? Because the thing with Tomiyasu is he can back up Timber, he can back up Zinchenko. But I'm imagining if it is Zinchenko and Tomiyasu, are you sure that these guys are going to be available for 38 games, throughout the campaign? No. If Timber picks up an injury, if Zinchenko picks up an injury, there is a possibility that Tommy will also pick up one, and you'll be left with no cover at left back. Now, the thing with Arsenal is when Mikel Arteta says he wants a left back or a left-sided centre back, you know he wants him, and you know if the target that we're looking at is available, we are going to get him. That is where the question would be, would be coming in. You have Kieran Tierney's back, you have Kivio there, Tomiyasu is there, he can play there as well. Zinchenko, and so there's a lot of players there. So if we bring in one more player, then that is where I would say Kivio, good season, good Euros, 30 million, we can actually move him on, because I think his value will drop if you don't play him, right? People will just say, listen, he's he's a player you brought in at 15 million. You don't even play him that much. You don't trust him. We're just going to give you 16, 17 million. Or players are going to, clubs are going to start wanting to take him out on loan, like we have seen the likes of Joao Felix. I don't like that kind of mode of transfer business. I hate it, right? So clubs are going to take him out on loan, like, like Kieran Tierney, Hector Bellerin, and in the end, you might find that he lives on a free, or he lives in his last season where you're being just offered peanuts. So it depends. Where does Mikel Arteta see him, right? If he sees him as a player that is going to be integral to his project, and he's going to get minutes like Ake at City, for me, I would keep. Like, there's a player in there, and there is a player who is not under pressure to develop, because he's got so many players ahead of him, and therefore slowly but surely we are creating a very, very good centre back. But if someone is coming in, if Joao Hato is coming in,
we are going to talk about that now and next. I wanted to lead up to that. So I'm starting to believe there's going to be changes on the left side, because we are going to talk about Zinchenko tomorrow as well. Because it's looking like Zinchenko might stay, might leave. Tierney's back, as Kosi has mentioned. We've been linked to Joel Hato. There's now talk about Kivio potentially leaving, and that could mean you're going to probably get a defender. And Hato could be the one, but could it also be this one? Could it be Fofana from Chelsea? Because if Fofana's centre back, could he be the one that you bring up to back up Gabriel on that left hand side in terms of centre back? He can play on the right side as well. I don't even know if he played more, but basically both positions in that centre back. Do you think he would be the answer? Do you think that's absolutely crazy? It's not a one sim. It's not a do one sim. I'm hearing that it's been recommended by the scouts that Arsenal take Fofana. Now, Fofana at Leicester, really good players. That's why you signed for 70 million. Because if you're talking about injury records with Patton, Zinchenko, and Tomiyasu and all these guys, surely Fofana is like 10 times worse.
Yeah, sure. I'm not really sure whether he had injury problems in France when he was playing with William Saliba. And I'm not really sure. Was he injury prone at Leicester?
I don't think so as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, Chelsea have had their bit of injuries. Like, they've had ACLs, they have tendon tearing. I'm not really sure if they are
recurring injuries.
Yeah, recurring injuries. Someone has to talk to their physio room. Someone needs to find out, right? Now, Fofana, on any other day, Wesley Fofana is a no-brainer for any team, especially if you want to bring in a player that can play across that back line. He's a no-brainer. There was a time when his rating was above Saliba's. I think when Saliba stayed on loan, in France, a couple of loans in France, and Fofana played at Leicester City, his rating was above William Saliba's. And the price that Chelsea actually, paid, that actually shows you how much this guy is, was rated at the time. Injuries have really, broken his game to an extent that I forgot about him. I had forgotten completely that Chelsea have a defender called Wesley Fofana, right?
Fofana.
So, yeah.
He basically never even met Pochettino. Pochettino came in, went without ever meeting Fofana. He never played a game for him. He probably never even met him. He'll be back and like, oh, Lampard is not here still. No, we actually changed another manager after that. Like, it's crazy. He's been disappearing for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. So why Fofana would be a good signing for Arsenal? Yeah. He's a player that's looking to revitalize his career, at the moment, right?
But how many of those can we afford, though? Too many revitalizing careers.
Yeah, too many revitalizing too many revitalizing careers. But right now in defense, right? anyone who comes in knows I'm not going to start. I am really not going to start. It's about me pushing, right? It's about me pushing into the starting 11. But also in terms of what Mikel Arteta wants to do, like Julian Timber, Benjamin White, 4 centre backs, or even 5 centre backs in a single game. I've always told people that there will be a time when Arsenal play Man City next season, and we shall have 12 centre backs on the pitch.
Both teams, yeah.
Honestly, because Pep could play Josko Gvardiol and Stones in midfield, and I would be surprised to see Julian Timber in midfield for Arsenal at any point. So Wesley Fofana would be a very good player if his injury problems can get behind him. But at the moment, I'm kind of very skeptical because that was a hell of an injury.
I'm so definitely, I would not, even if you're to ask me right now, replace Kiwi with Fofana, definite no.
Now, for me, it's not a definite no. In terms of quality, in terms of quality, talent, I think it's James Lawrence Alcott that really rates defenders in terms of talent. If you rate talent, it's only William Saliba that I'll take over him in terms of raw talent. But of course, in terms of development, our defenders are more developed than him, and he doesn't stand a chance at the moment. But for me, I'm looking at him and I'm like, imagine him playing on the left-hand side of the defense. Like, just imagine him playing
ahead of Gabriel.
No, left back, like
left back,
completely at left back.
I still wouldn't say that because I still feel like I know he's very highly rated at his during his time at Saint Etienne, and but still those injuries are very concerning, and it's not once. I think he recovered the first time and got injured again, and then went now for a full season. That is very worrying. And as you said, players like Kivio, players like Saliba, injuries and fitness is not a concern that much. They always had the Gabriel as well, always there. Ben White especially, always there. So you don't really want to have a defender who gets injured on top of Zinchenko and Tomiyasu as well. It would be a concern. But I hear you. If this story picks up more pace, you're definitely going to talk more about him. But let us know in the comment section what you do with the defensive part, especially the left side. That's why it looks like you're going to make some movements. Would you sell Zinchenko? Would you sell Tini? Would you sell Kivio? Would you like to buy Fofana from Chelsea, another player from Chelsea? I don't think we'll ever stop buying players from Chelsea. I think it's just going to keep on going for the next 30 years. We'll always be linked.
We don't have a rivalry with Chelsea. We should just admit.
We don't like each other, but yeah, in terms of players, they're always like somehow change players and all that. Let us know about all that. Let us know what you rated Kivio's season and how much you'd ask for him if you would like to sell him. As always, make sure to check out Kozi's video later today. And thank you for watching. Catch up with you on the next one.